I was just setting up, just making sure everything's all good to go. So I want to quickly do a quick live stream for mid-week madness. So I said I was going to do live streams. It's on my YouTube page, so I'm going to try to stick to that and do live streams as I can. So I'm just going to go through upcoming fights. So I have submitted a request to be a part of the media for the George Kambosos fight coming up on Saturday, and I got accepted. So that's good. I couldn't go to the media stuff today, and I won't be able to go to the media stuff on Thursday. However, I can go to the media stuff on Friday. So the weigh-in, I should be there. As long as I have all my stuff sorted out, I should be able to get to the weigh-in, and I will upload all the footage I get. Hopefully I get some interviews, and then also the fight. So I've got media access as well to the fight on Saturday. So I'll be there and hopefully get probably post-fight press conference stuff and interviews and things like that. But see how I go with that. First time doing this stuff, so I'm kind of in the deep end. But it's all good. Anyway, moving on to that fight, George Kambosos. So we did have a change in fighters. So George Kambosos is no longer fighting the original fighter he was going to fight. So he's now going to be fighting Jake Wyllie, so an Aussie fighter. I kind of think this is going to be a bit of a step down in actual class, because I don't think Jake Wyllie hasn't fought anyone of note, not in the world scene anyway. So I kind of think George Kambosos is just a bit too far ahead of Jake Wyllie in terms of skill and class, and just the level of fighters that George Kambosos has fought in the last 3 or 4 years or so. And all of his opponents have just been world-class fighters. So what are we looking at? We look back at 2021. So he's been fighting world-class fighters since 2021, like world title fighters since 2021. And pretty much every fight that he's had has been a world title, a world title fight. So that's, although he hasn't won all of those fights, he's still fighting top of the game fighters in his division. So I see it. I find it hard to see George Kambosos losing against Jake Wyllie. And I think if he does lose against Jake Wyllie, it's going to be a huge upset. But hey, stranger things have happened. But I just can't see it. And I think potentially George Kambosos gets a stoppage. I think Jake Wyllie leads with his head way too much. He has an awkward style. So it was hard to try and do a bit of research on him because he doesn't have many videos up anywhere. But I managed to get some footage. But from what I have seen, even in his pro career as well as his amateur career, he does have a very awkward style, and he is unbalanced on his feet as well. So I just find it hard to see him winning this. And he leads with his head. So Kambosos is going to have the uppercut there all day. He just has to step back, let Wyllie move forward, and then uppercut. Use some angles, uppercuts on the angles. And yeah, I just, even when he's coming forward, just using those angles and hitting him with shots, I think is the key to Kambosos winning this. And I think he'll probably get a stoppage. I'll be surprised if he doesn't get a stoppage. But that's just what I think. It's just someone that's stepping in last minute because they needed a replacement. And yep, good on Jake Wyllie for stepping in, but I just don't think he's going to win it. But it's going to, either way, I think this is just Kambosos going into this weight class, having a tune-up fight, and then moving on to Richardson Hitchins, and that will probably be his next potential fight. So this isn't really a stepping stone fight. It's more of just a warm-up fight, keep active, and then move on to the actual big players in the game. So Richardson, Hitchins. And that'll be a good fight, I think. So, yeah, we'll get past this one. And pretty sure Kambosos will win it. And move on to Richardson, Hitchins. It's actually going to be a pretty decent card. Well, the other fight I'm really looking forward to is Sky Nicholson and Tiara Brown. So the Aussie versus the US WBC World Featherweight. So I think that's going to be a good fight. So pretty sure Skylar Nicholson has a WBC. I don't know why they've got it down here as Tiara Brown. But anyway, that's going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. I haven't really seen much of Brown, so I can't really say much in terms of what she has to bring to the fight. But I have seen Sky Nicholson, and she is a good fighter. Knows how to box, knows how to move around, knows how to use the ring, knows how to make her opponent miss. So that's going to be an interesting one, and see how she goes with the US Brown. And hopefully they get an interview after the fight. Yep, so Brown 18, 11 KOs. So a bit more experience than Nicholson. But I think Nicholson having 12 fights undefeated with all those wins. I think she's traveled a lot more. She's been around the world a lot more and probably had more classier opponents, where I think Brown has mainly stayed in the US and not had as much opponents. Oh, she has gone overseas, but I don't think she's traveled as much as Sky Nicholson. Where you can see US, Ireland, all over the place, UK, Australia. So she's definitely, Sky Nicholson's definitely traveled a lot more for her opponents. And she's also based in the UK, I think with a good team over there. So that's going to be an interesting one as well. So obviously I'm going to be backing the Aussie for that one. And then moving on. So also on this weekend, on the Sunday, so we've got Kambosos fight on Saturday. So I think that starts probably around 7 or so. And then we've got Fundora fighting as well. So Sebastian Fundora finally, after how long? Since 2024, since that win over Tszyu with that massive cut. He hasn't fought since that fight, which is crazy. I don't know what PBC are doing, but they're not really looking after Sebastian Fundora, considering he's the unified champion and he hasn't fought since the start of 2024. So a year since his last fight. So that he's in inactivity. I guess we're going to see if he has any rust or how he sort of comes out on Sunday with not having fought in around 12 months or so. But I mean, Fundora is a good fighter, and 12 months isn't a massive layoff. But still, he should have already had at least probably 2 fights in that time period, considering he's the unified champion. I don't know what PBC are doing, but they're not really looking after their unified champion, which is crazy. So he'll be fighting Booker, Chordell Booker. So I've seen a little bit of this guy, not too much, but he doesn't seem like a bad fighter. He seems pretty slick, good combinations, good ring IQ. So I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think this is his first time fighting for a world title. So it's going to be interesting. And their records, I mean, experience-wise, they're not much different. When you're looking at Booker's, who's had 23 wins and 1 loss, and then you look at Sebastian Fundora, 21 wins and 1 loss. So in terms of experience level, it's not much between them. So I think that's going to be an interesting fight. And I don't know, Booker's got a good shot at winning it. It's just getting past that height of Sebastian Fundora. That's probably the most difficult thing, getting past that height. And if he fights the game where he's on the inside and not using his length, that's when you can catch him off guard and potentially beat him. That's your keys to victory. Hope that he fights on the inside, because if he uses his jab and fights on the outside, you're going to struggle. But he never really does that. He rarely does that. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And he hasn't fought for a while. So last time Booker fought was mid last year. So a little bit of inactivity, but not as much as Sebastian Fundora. Either way, I'll be watching it. I might live stream that one. We'll see. We'll see how we go after the Kambosos fight. And then moving on to Tszyu fight coming up next. So Tszyu, yeah. So his fight back after getting stopped by Bakram Murtazaliev. This is, I don't know what to expect with Tim. This is a bit of a, I think Tszyu's opponent, so Tszyu's opponent is Spencer, so Joey Spencer. Joey Spencer's not a bad fighter. He does have some flaws. I watched his previous fight, and he was coming in with his head a lot. He was getting caught with a lot of shots. Tough fighter. Got dropped, I think, in the early stages of the fight, and then eventually he got stopped. He's kind of threw in the towel. What round was that? Round 10. No, sorry. Yeah, round 10. No, is that the fight? Oh no, wasn't even that fight. That was the wrong fight. So Jose Romero. So that was a few fights ago. Round 7, he got stopped. And that was in 2023. So has he improved since then? I'm not too sure. I haven't really watched his other fights after that. But he's a skilled fighter. So it is a top challenge for Tszyu. It's probably the right challenge, but I don't know where Tim's headspace is. So he's lost his last 2 fights. You got the Fundora fight. It was the cut that did a lot of this damage and caused a lot of issues in that fight, but he still lost the fight. It probably should have stopped. The corner probably should have stopped the fight. Probably shouldn't have continued as long as it did. But hey, it did. And a loss is a loss. So you still have to come back from that. And then going into the Bakram Murtazaliev fight, he was going in with a loss and overconfident. And then unfortunately, because of him looking past his opponent and being overconfident, I think that was his undoing, unfortunately. But getting beaten the way that he did, that's hard to come back from. And he's going straight back to a top contender. So I'm not too sure how he's going to go, just jumping straight back in there after taking those big shots and getting stopped the way he did. So it's yet to be seen. I guess we'll see. I think Tszyu is the better fighter. I think Tszyu is better than Spencer. But that's Tszyu before getting knocked out. So we haven't seen the version of Tszyu after getting knocked out. So all the questions are going to be on how does he come back from it? How does he perform after that? Does he just put it behind him and just get on with it and maintain his level of dominance that he had in the fights before that? Or is that going to be a mind game with him and also a physical thing, because he did get hurt a fair bit. So that punishment, it carries on with you. So I hope he does come back, and I hope he does get to the same level that he was at. But it's yet to be seen. And there's still question marks on Tim. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing him come back into the ring and having those questions answered. And hopefully the answer will be, yep, Tszyu is back to the state that he was. But it's yet to be seen. James Daly, congrats on the media credentials. Did you apply Matchroom, and would you consider Sydney no limit card in the future? Yeah, so I did apply through the organize. I think it was the organization that was running it. I actually went through No Limit site and did it that way. And yeah, it was a different organization. I can't remember what the organization was called at the moment. Anyway, but they got back to me. I was actually going for not. I wasn't even going for the Kambosos fight. I was going for the Keith Thurman fight. So I applied for the Keith Thurman fight, and it was too late. So I just did it last minute, and then they got back to me and they said, "Hey, we got the Kambosos fight. Here's the cutoff date. Here's the like the form that you have to fill out." So I did all that, jumped through the hoops, and then yeah, they got back to me like 2 days ago saying, "Yep, you're all good to go to the media conference and stuff like that." But I couldn't go to the media stuff today, but it's okay because I get to go to the weigh-in and I'll get to go to the actual fight. So I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I have to work my day job, so I couldn't just cut that away and go to all the media stuff today and also tomorrow. But maybe in the future, we'll see. But yeah, anyway, let's get on to that. Brock Jarvis versus Keith Thurman. Considering we're talking about that. That that was a good live stream. I really enjoyed that live stream. I had so many people on there. It was crazy. um, but I think that shows that fight shows that Keith Thurman. I don't think it shows that he's at that top level because of the competition. And I knew Keith Thurman was going to win it. I just wasn't sure how he was going to actually win it. And I wasn't sure how dominant he was going to be. That first round, I thought Brock Jarvis did really well. I thought he was aggressive enough. He was doing everything he needed to do. But also Keith Thurman just handled that really well, that aggression, and Brock Jarvis just coming on really strong and just let that go by, just cover up and send it into round two, which Keith Thurman did. And then after that, Keith Thurman, he showed that he still has the skills. The only question mark I'd have on Keith Thurman is the competition. So the competition wasn't high class. He showed that skill level, that high class skill level, but it wasn't against a high class opponent. So that's the only question I would have on Keith Thurman at the moment. I do think he's still at that top level, that contender, potentially world champion level. But there's still a question about competition. So wait and see when he actually faces some competition. And hey, that competition could be Tszyu. If Tszyu gets past Spencer, it's looking like that might be a fight that gets made. I'm not really a fan of that fight for Tszyu. I think if Tszyu performs well, I think he should still be aiming for another world title. Not going for a popularity, money, kind of a money grab. But hey, look, it'd be a good fight either way. And we'll see. I guess it depends on what opportunities are in front of Tszyu. So if the opportunity is just Keith Thurman and he can't get a world title opportunity, then hey, why not just take it? But it's a risk as well. Keith Thurman is good. So I don't know the risk versus reward, but I guess you've just got to take these fights, and these big money fights don't come along that often. And it'll be in Australia as well. So No Limit would have Keith Thurman here, and I think that one's a big stadium fight, a big sellout fight. And hopefully in Sydney, if that does happen. If that happens in Sydney, I'm definitely pushing to go to that. Um, that would be good. But we'll see what happens. And as I said, question marks on Tim after the knockout. So don't look past this fight, Tim. Just focus on Spencer. Because you looked past the fighter before in the past. Don't worry about Keith Thurman. Just worry about Spencer. And study his fight. Like, study Spencer's previous fights. I heard in an interview leading up to the Mudazaliev fight that he said that he doesn't watch his opponents. He doesn't watch their fights. He doesn't study them, which is, to me, I just find that crazy. Like, if you're not studying your opponent, you're not watching their fights, you're missing that opportunity of that mental game of having that style, having that person, what they do, their habits in your head. So that mental part of it is just there already. Then all you have to do is do that physical part of it and do that training, and you kind of combine that with the mental side as well. So you've studied them, you've watched them, you know what they do, you know what you have to do, and you know what you have to train to do in the gym. So I just found that comment to be very odd, that he would say that he doesn't watch his opponents. I don't know if that was just a fib. I hope so. And if it wasn't, I hope now he's studying his fighters, his opponents, because that is a big key to having that, having your opponent in your head. And I mean, we've got all the technology these days where you can study your opponent. Why not take advantage of that? And then just use your team then. Like, I don't know if he's just relying on his team to watch his opponents, and then his team studies his opponent and then works out his training schedule and what he needs to do in terms of winning the fight. But either way, I just think he needs to be watching his opponents. He needs to be studying them. Anyway, enough about that. Either way, so he has a challenge ahead of him with Spencer. So we'll see how that goes with Tim Tszyu. So when are we looking? The 6th of April. So I think that's a weekend, or it might be a weekday. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm probably going to live stream that one. Let's have a look. 6th of April is a Sunday. So they're still trying to align with the American times, it seems, with these fighters, which makes sense as well. That one being in Newcastle on a Sunday. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having those questions answered. Shout out to Brock Jarvis for winning round 1. Yeah, shout out to Brock Jarvis for winning round 1. That's true, James. He did do well against a classy opponent. I was actually impressed. That first round, I'm like, whoa, this was not the way I was expecting this to go. And then lo and behold, it was only that one round. And then Keith Thurman just weathered the storm, and then just showed that, hey, I'm not that rusty after what? I think it was 2 or 3 years or so out of the ring. So, and that's another thing as well. That's his comeback fight after like 3 years. So he's doing well in terms of that as well. So, not too much rust. Not the most classiest opponent, but not too much rust for Keith Thurman. And I mean, if you look on the domestic scene, Brock Jarvis is a top Australian fighter, but he's just not world class. That's all. He's just not world class. But he's still a good fighter, so I'm not taking anything away from him. And he did do well getting in there and winning that round. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I've really got. I just want to do a quick live stream. If you guys have any questions, shout out in the comments. Other than that, I will be at the weigh-in on Friday. So I think it's 11 o'clock on Friday. I'll be there. I'll see how I go. Being my first time at one of these events, I'll try to get some footage and get it up as soon as I can, and then get back to the card and watch the fights, and then I'll do the same with the interviews and that. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, I might put up a post and just hit you guys up and see if you guys want to ask any questions to any of the fighters from on Saturday. It'll most likely be all the post-fight stuff. So I'll try and get on, put a post up or put something up that you guys can actually comment on. And if you guys have any questions for any of the fighters, you can hit me up and I'll try to ask those questions if I can, depending on how hectic it is with all the media and stuff. But we'll see how it go. Yeah, and then other than that, I will post all the post-fight media stuff on Saturday, and probably look at doing a live stream with that Fondora fight on Sunday. So a lot happening at the moment. We'll see how it all goes. Anyway, I'm going to continue to do these live streams each week. This one was a bit disjointed. I was a bit busy. I didn't have much time to prepare for this, so I just looked at a few things I could talk about in terms of upcoming fights, and that's what I want to keep this as, like upcoming fights or fights that have just happened. If you guys have anything you want to discuss or anything you want to put in the comments, go for it. And as these live streams get bigger, which hopefully they do, I'll get more questions in the comments and that. But I'll maintain on a Wednesday trying to do this as long as I've got nothing on and I'm not busy. Anyway, guys, appreciate you guys watching. And I'll be back on Friday with footage of the weigh-in, and then Saturday, and then Sunday. And I'll be back doing a live stream again next Wednesday, and keep the momentum going with this, and do it every Wednesday, because I've kind of got lazy with this. And I've got to stop being lazy. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. Peace out.